Good morning, High at 9 News viewers. This is Yarrow. Hot off the press this morning. I'm reporting to you from Cannabis Business Times. A little update on Nebraska. So without further ado, cannabis judge could dismiss lawsuit targeting cannabis ballot measure this week. Lancaster County District Court Judge Susan Strong is weighing prohibitionist claims about signature validity for two legislative petitions. This week in Nebraska, a judge intends to decide on a motion to dismiss a lawsuit attempting to prevent a pair of medical cannabis legalization measures from appearing on the November ballot. Lancaster County District Court Judge Susan Strong said September 20th she hopes to work, quote, as expeditiously as possible, unquote, to resolve claims that signatures certified by Secretary of State Bob Evans were invalid, the Nebraska Examiner reported. Former State Senator John Cahoon, who represented Nebraska's 38th district from 2015 to 2019, is challenging the validated signatures in a lawsuit filed September 12th, the day before Evans certified a pair of petitions sponsored by Nebraskans for medical marijuana as sufficient to go before voters. A long-standing prohibitionist, Cahoon argues in the lawsuit that numerous signatures are invalid and unlawfully accepted by the secretary, suggesting that certain signers were not registered to vote, signed a petition more than once, or did not properly fill out their information on the petition. The lawsuit names Evan, as well as the NMM sponsor Krista Edgars, State Senator Anna Weishart, and former State Senator Adam Moorfield as defendants. In a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, NMM's legal team said Coonan's requests are the equivalent of a recount, and that Coonan believes he is best equipped to make important election decisions currently left to the sound discretion of our election experts. Sponsored by NMM, Initiative 437 intends to protect medical cannabis patients from criminal charges and prosecution by legalizing up to 5 ounces of medical cannabis, while Initiative 438 aims to adopt state law to establish a framework for a regulated medical cannabis marketplace with licensed businesses regulated by the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission. In asking for judicial relief, Cahoon requests that the court act as quickly as possible to rule that the initiatives are legally insufficient and invalid, or to prevent the November 5th election result for the initiatives from being certified. Strong says September 20th that she hopes to resolve the claims before the election. Though I understand we don't have to, she said during an initial briefing, I think it would be best course. In addition to questioning signatures, the lawsuit claims Weishart violated state law by failing to disclose her full address as a sponsor for the petitions. You have a typo, never mind democracy. NMM released a public statement September 20th regarding the lawsuit. It is unfortunate that an extremely small minority of individuals have taken it upon themselves to attempt to silence the voice of the people, Edgar said in a release. We have long been fighting for Nebraska's most vulnerable patients, including our children and elderly, who are continuing to suffer through painful medical conditions after other treatments have failed. And when medical cannabis, an evidence-based treatment for many ailments, is accessible to patients one state over in every direction. Edgar's 9-year-old son battles severe epileptic seizures. Her cannabis advocacy work comes as Nebraska is one of 9 prohibitionist states in the U.S. that does not even have a medical cannabis program to any degree. Until certifying the NMM initiative on September 11th, Emnen said each petition collected more than 89,850 signatures, nearly 3,000 more than the roughly 87,000 valid signatures needed to appear on the ballot. And Emnen's certification came just hours after Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers held a press conference to announce an investigation in Hall County that led to felony charges against an individual accused of signature collecting fraud. I am certifying the petition because at this point they appear to have met the threshold signature requirements, Emnen said in a press release. That could change in light of the Attorney General's investigation. Both cannabis petitions will appear on the ballot, but a court could order later that the initiatives be thrown out. In light of the investigation in Hall County, Edgar said NMM remains grateful for the outstanding work done by county election officials. As far as Kunin's lawsuit, this isn't the first legal challenge to NMM's year-long medical cannabis legalization fight. In 2020, years long, not year long. In 2020, the Nebraska Supreme Court struck down the group's petition after it had already been certified for the ballot because its justices ruled that the initiative dealt with two subjects, legalization and setting up a system to cultivate, sell, and distribute products. That's why the group put forward two initiatives in 2024 to satisfy the state's single subject rule. Despite widespread support of medical cannabis from all ages, demographics, and political affiliations, we are not surprised by the lawsuit brought by those who want Nebraska to continue to suffer, Edgar said. We will stand committed to bringing access to safe and regulated medical cannabis to Nebraskan patients. Roughly 70% of the Nebraskans support legalizing medical cannabis, according to a February 2024 poll conducted through the Neelan Strategy Group. All right. That was a lot of words, big mouthful.
It was.
A lot of article to read. However, I chose this because we have covered Nebraska here in the recent
we've been covering this
past on this show. That's right. One of only 9 states to still not have a medical program. And here we go. Last minute attempts to interfere with the election process through the judiciary by a previous senator. Love to hear what the rest of you guys think.
Well, we've been covering this as this whole thing has gone along. Especially last week, we had two different days where this was in the news, and all that this story is really saying is that the judge could turn over the decision. So, to me, that's not necessarily new news. From what we've been following, that's just, of course the judge can do that. That's why it's going to a court, so a judge can make that type of a decision.
Well, I mean, last week we were worried about whether they were going to get everything in time to have all the signatures validated, right? And it seems like now they're going through it.
That was at the beginning of the week, and then we covered when this lawsuit got filed. I think it got filed on Thursday, and we covered it on Friday show.
I was going through that, but that's okay. I was just saying it's kind of the progression, and this is like the process prior to a stop. So Nebraskans might have to wait a bit longer.
I don't think this judge is going to be able to overturn it based off the merits of the case. That's just my opinion.
And what's important about this article is what they haven't demonstrated versus what they have alleged, right? They're alleging that there are signatures that would make these ballot measures, but they haven't provided the evidence. They haven't gone through a court process.
Well, that's because
they can do that before the election or after the election, but they're trying to get it off the ballot entirely. I don't know how that supports a transparent due process that still allows voters to register their opinion through the voting process.
You know how this will probably end up, Yarrow? This is probably going to end up with the judge, with the judge saying that it will remain on the ballot and the people will have their will, and that there'll be a full audit done or whatnot during the time of the election. If there's things that are found that didn't allow it to be on the ballot in the first place, then it'll be removed. That's how.
And they're going to have to find 4 to 5% of these signatures collected are invalid. Or somehow voidable.
I think it's higher than that. I think it's higher than that. They actually submitted a lot of the signatures overdue to where the clerk
3% of 78 is 4%. That's where I came up with that math.
The clerk hadn't even finished. Hold on, the clerk hadn't even finished verifying all of the signatures, and they said that they have well surpassed the threshold needed to be certified. So he certified it before he already had even finished going through all the signatures.
That's right. They got 3,000 extra signatures on approximately 70 to 80,000 signatures. That these people are filing this. How would they have any evidence that 3,000 plus signatures are bogus? How would they have even been able to position themselves to have that information to support their claim? This just seems like they're just trying to gum up the process.
Oh, I think it's totally a gum up the process, and I would call this a prohibitionist member. But it's just part of the game. I think ultimately.
I don't know how far the stick is shoved up whomever's ass for them to just continually fight this electoral process in Nebraska. Just let it go. Maybe if you're truly worried about protecting the kids and things like that, why don't you worry about helping write sensible regulations? You're probably going to do a terrible job of it, so please don't. But I mean, it just seems like just let people vote. Like this has been 3 years running that the same group has tried to stop this process. Just let it hit the ballot.
Mm-hmm. I feel you.
It's
I'm with
the
you on
opposite. It's the opposite of weed for the people, right? I mean, here you've got polls indicating 70% of the population there is in favor of some type of medical program. We have no medical
program. To Nebraska, it's boring as shit. Give those people weed.
Well, yes or no, right? I mean, you make your own fun. So wherever you go, maybe it is boring. I don't know. But what I would say is that medical patients across the country deserve access, even if it's a terrible system, even if it's boof, even if they have to go too far to get too little. The notion that there's no medical system, and we had medical in California in 1996. Shows just how slow they are and how behind the curve they are. This is out of step with the rest of America. And according to the polls, it's out of step with what their population wants. So this is not democracy at its best.
Let them grow the green corn in the Cornhusker state.